Hello, this is a tutorial for how to use our in-ear monitor controls, the Behringer P16 for Harvest City Church. I'm going to walk you through some of the things you need to know and how we have it set up specifically for our church use. So you'll notice we've got the headphone adapter plugged in here, and I'm just going to show you attachment we have in the end. It's just a typical kind of whatever you call those paper clips. But the nice thing about it is that this can then clip onto your back kind of belt loop and hold it in place. That way it gives you better kind of support instead of putting in your pocket, where when we put it in our pocket, it kind of can bend the cable or bend the headphone adapter and make it just not last as long. So if you can kind of utilize that, it keeps it in place. Also, if you step on it, it hopefully doesn't yank it out of your headphones while you are while you're playing. So that's a just kind of easy solution there, okay? And so this would go onto your belt loop for women that are wearing either a skirt or dress with no pockets or belt loops. This should still be able to just clip on to a piece of fabric in the back of your dress and then also still hold it into place. So that was the idea behind there. Okay, so as you can see right now, all of these lights are lighting up. That's what you're going to see when sound is going through those different channels, okay? And so the green light means that there's actually a signal going to that channel. When you see that there's no green light, typically there's no signal going there. Sometimes if it's a low signal, it won't trigger the green light, but typically you'll see these green lights, meaning that something's happening. So sometimes if there's nothing going on and they're all blank and you want to figure out which one's yours, you can kind of talk into your microplay and you'll see it flash there. Okay, but before we get into any of the controls, I just want to show you how we have each channel set up in default for our specific teams. Okay, so you'll see here we've got a primary channels, and then when we have more than our regular, or not regular bands, but just more than what we have listed here, then you'll see alternate channels, and that enables us to still keep some things the same but change what we need as we need more channels going to the in-ears. So typically we have a drum mix that goes left and right, and it just gives you a bit of a stereo image of the drum set. And so that includes all of the drums except for the kick, and that's because we've got the kick on a separate channel. Then we've got bass guitar, we've got electric guitar, acoustic guitar, piano, left and right. So when we have enough channels available, this is in stereo. Okay. When we need more channels, then this channel 7 becomes the mono piano, and this can become the third guitar or a violin or special instrument like that. That's typically where that extra instrument will go. And then if we have more than 4 singers, the same happens to our keys, which is more like synths and pads. If we have a second keyboard player, they go to mono, and then there is our extra vocal, okay? And you'll notice that we have L, CL, C, CR, R. And what that is we have them set up from left to right on the stage. And so the person on the farthest left, and this is for those standing on the stage, okay? So if I'm an instrumentalist on the stage or a vocalist, whoever is the farthest to my left will be here. And then center left next to them, center right, and then the far right, okay? And so that is how our vocals are set up, okay? And then finally, or not finally, but channel 15, talk is our talk back. So that may be from the sound guy or someone just talking to the in-ears. Also, our click is on here, but then also our speakers. So if someone comes up for a prophetic word, or the pastor comes up to share during the sermon or during the music, that will come into this one. The reason these ones are connected is typically it's either going to be talk or click, And so you just have to adjust the volume as needed. And then finally, channel 16 is our ambient and effects to give you reverb and delay and stuff like that for those that want it. It's kind of another term for that is the wet-dry mix. So the more I turn this channel up, the more reverb and stuff they're going to have there. Okay. Now, before you start changing any of the levels of the instruments, here's the first thing that you need to do. Okay. It's kind of a little interesting here, but we have this main button, and so this controls the main volume for everything, the whole set. But we also have this output level, which also controls the output. Okay, so both of these, the main volume and the output level, will control what comes to your headphones. Okay, now if your main level is too low, then you're not going to get enough, and people run into this problem where they mix their whole mix and then they don't have enough of a certain thing, they need more. But now, even if they turn this all the way up, it's not enough. So please make sure that before you start mixing, your main is all the way up, okay? And that way we have enough volume for all of the channels, and then use this as you need, okay? Typically, we get this started at about 3 o'clock. Because what I've found is musicians, once they get it set, very rarely do they need to turn their whole mix up. Typically, what happens is you start mixing and things get louder and louder, and then you need to turn it down a little bit. But start here, and then if you start here and you have your main all the way up, you will always have enough of each of the individual channels volume-wise, and they'll be loud enough based on how the sound guy is setting the gain, okay? Now also, with the main button selected, you can change the EQ of your whole in-ear monitor mix, okay? So if it's a little bit too bright, you can bring it down a bit, or if you want more bass, you can bring that up, but you have to have main selected for that to happen, okay? Now, once you select one of these channels, okay, then, and you'll see here the volume will change as I select different channels, right? And so, when you select a channel, it allows you to change the EQ, the balance, and the volume for that specific channel. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. You can also solo a channel if you're kind of wondering what's coming out of one certain thing. You can, let's say, figure out who's center left, right? You can hit that and press solo, and you're going to be able to hear what is going on in that specific channel, okay? Now, there's also another little thing that I should explain about the volume, okay? Is that, so I've got vocal here still selected. You'll see that I turn this up, okay? Now, if I want to mute that channel, I can hit the mute button, but there's another way to mute it, and that is to push down on the volume button, and you can see that it goes away. So sometimes I've had musicians where they're saying, I can't get any volume out of this, and the reason is the button has been pushed in to mute the channel, and so you just simply need to push it again. Okay? Good. Now, here's a couple more things about the setup that is very important to know. Is up here in the setup, we use link, okay, when we want certain channels to be left and right, which is stereo. So for example, I've clicked link, and you can see that it is blinking now. So I'm going to link the drums left and right, okay? I'm also going to link the piano and the keys, okay? And what that does is now the drums are in a stereo, the piano is in a stereo, and the synth is in stereo. Now let's say I have 5 singers. I'm going to want to select link, go over here, hit channel 9, and you can see it stopped blinking now. Okay, and now I'm going to go back up, hit the link button, and then I'm out of that menu. Drums are still linked, piano is still linked, but now keys will be mono, and this channel will be vocal left. All right? Good. So let's go through a couple more features that I find really helpful when you have in-ears, okay? One of the things is the ability to pan a channel, okay? And originally, I used to pan channels so that it kind of followed the way things were in on the stage. So if the electric guitar was a little bit to my left, I would have them here. If this singer was a little bit to my right, I'd have them over here, kind of thing. But what I've realized is when I pan things more extreme, my brain instantly knows what is what. And it's way easier for me to figure out what I'm hearing. So for example, say I have two singers, okay? And they're kind of, let's say they're both altos and they're both singing the same thing, but I want to know what is this person singing and what is this person singing. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and pan them. One person is going to go, you can either go all the way, but somewhere around here, and then the other person, I'm going to pan all the way this way. And now what that does is my brain automatically knows, okay, what I'm hearing over here is the one singer, and what I'm hearing over here is the other singer. Let's say the electric guitar and the synth are really similar, and I want to hear, okay, what is the electric guitar playing and what's the synth playing? And I need to be able to separate those two. Well, again, I'm going to pan the electric guitar one way, and I'm going to pan the synth the other way, and now my brain instantly is able to differentiate what I'm actually hearing. This is a really great feature, okay? And so finally, let's go over our store and recall. We don't really use group much. Group is, let's say if we had 4 or 5 channels that were all the drums and I wanted to kind of keep them all together. We don't really do that. So we don't worry about the group one. Okay, but what we do worry about is store and recall, okay? You'll notice over here it says default for 16, right? And then we have a few of our keyboard players set up already on certain channels. So if I wanted the default setup for this whole thing, I'm gonna press recall, okay? With one, and while I have it held down, I'm gonna hit the other button, okay? So you'll see here, I'm gonna hit recall, and I'm gonna hit this one, there, okay? And you can kind of see, it's hard to do while I'm holding. You'll kind of see that, let's see if we can see those buttons. There we go, you can kind of see it just flash, right, when I do that, okay? And then that way, I've recalled that now. Now let's say I want to store my setting, I'm gonna hit store, and then I'm going to hit the button that I want to store it under and hit it again. So store, okay, you can see the light is on, and then I'm going to hit channel 13, and then you can see it blinking, and I'm going to hit it one more time while I'm still hitting store. This is a lot easier when you're not holding a phone to video yourself. Okay, so again, I'm going to hit store, hit this button once, it's lit up, hit it again, and now I have stored it in that channel. So now when I want to recall it, I'm going to hit recall, and I'm going to hit that button, okay? So let's say I wanted to recall this one. You'll see now it goes over to that button while I have recall still pressed down, okay? Great. One last thing I just noticed I did not cover is the limiter. Now what the limiter does is anything over a certain volume is going to get cut off so that you don't blow up your in-ears or your actual eardrums itself. If there's something, a really loud pop, or a guitar turns up way too loud or something like that. Not that I'm blaming guitarists, they'd never do that. So what's kind of weird about this one is that when I have it all the way up, okay, that doesn't limit anything, and as I turn it down, it begins to limit anything that would be above that, okay? So if I have it all the way over here, now you can see that it's turned on. That means that it is now limiting the sound that's coming, okay? And as I turn it up, you can see it's sort of limiting when it gets it high, right? Still limiting it a little bit. and now it's not limiting anything, right? You really don't want it limiting the regular mix. You're going to hear just the quality drop a lot, because anything that goes over that is gonna get cut off. Okay, so typically I usually keep the limiter right about 3 o'clock. I usually have both of these at 3 o'clock, and then have my mains all the way up. Make sure your main is also centered. I've had other people saying my right in-ear isn't working, right? And typically it's because they've got their mains cranked all the way to the left. Okay, cool. Another feature, when I press this button, it goes back to center, and that's true for any button. Okay, so here I've got, these are stereo again. Okay, so let's say over here I've got it left for this vocal. I click it and they go back to center. One more thing is, if you notice that there's no power on your monitor mix, there is a button in the back here, okay? And this toggles between, sometimes we have a plug-in where you can get power, right? And so it needs to be pushed in for that to be plugged in. But typically we have power coming through our Ethernet, and then that needs to be pushed out. So if you don't have power, try and toggle that button and see if that gives you power. If that still doesn't work, it could either be the Ethernet cable, or it could be the main hub that is dispersing the signal to everywhere. In that sense, you just need to let the sound person know, and they'll ensure that that box is turned on.